Basically, if I were to stay at my current like Goodreads challenge reading clip, like 36 books a year, the challenge I set for myself this year, it would take me 9.3 years to get through my TBR pile, my current TBR pile. Sandy says read, and welcome to the channel. Today we are going to do a BookTube tag. You guys, this is the exposing my TBR tag. Yeah, the to be read pile around this room and around this house is a little bit chaotic. So this tag might be a little bit chaotic. All right, I saw this over at Lindsay from BFCG. I saw this over at her channel, but she did mention that this tag has been around a little while. I saw where it's been around a while, okay? But she has recently redone the tag. I've got the prompts that I will put in the drop-down box below, because I bet you guys don't want to sit through this more than once to catch all of these. But I will also put a link to her video in the drop-down box below, so you guys can go see how she interpreted this tag. But let's dive in and let's talk a little bit about the to be read pile. Oh, you know what? Actually, no. You guys, I do have notes here. You think I could follow these notes? Before we actually dive into the tag, we are going to have a new book to add to the TBR pile, because like a moron, I thought that I could revamp or renew my book of the month subscription. Yeah, book. I thought that I could renew. Oh, there must be a bookmark in there. I thought I could renew my book of the month club subscription. I noticed that I actually had a credit, or a couple credits actually. I have a couple of credits in there where I could get a couple of free books. I'm like, well, that's very nice. So I went ahead and I will try not to stab myself on camera while I talk to you guys. I went ahead and re-upped my subscription to see, okay, hey, let's go ahead and get a book or two happening. Let's see if we can get that to happen. And the free book is here. The first free book that I could get is here. And I think that it's going to cost me like $10 for the next book that comes. And then, it's not going to be too financially difficult to do the book of the month books for a little while. So I'm going to try it. I'm going to see how long I can financially handle book of the month, and I'm going to do a couple of book of the month unboxings here for you guys. And this is the first one that has arrived, and it is, oh, it's really pretty. Hang on, this is A Song to Drown Rivers. Look at that, you guys, by Anne Ling. I might not have pronounced her name correctly, but this is gorgeous. I did order this one to arrive because I think it was intriguing to me when I read its description on the site. There's nothing on the back cover. I was just going to read the back cover for you guys, and that will take all of no minutes at all to do. Let's see what's on the inside cover flap. Okay. Zishi's beauty is seen as a blessing to the villagers of Yu. Convinced that the best fate for a girl is to marry well and support her family, when Zishi draws the attention of the famous young military advisor Fan Li, he presents her with a rare opportunity to use her beauty as a weapon, one that could topple the rival neighboring kingdom of Wu, improve the lives of her people, and avenge her sister's murder. All she has to do is infiltrate the enemy palace as a spy, seduce their immoral king, and weaken them from within. Trained by Fan Li in everything from classical instruments to concealing emotion, Zishi hones her beauty into the perfect blade. But she knows Fan Li can see through every deception she masters, the attraction between them burning away any falsehoods. Once inside the enemy palace, Zishi finds herself under the hungry gaze of the king's advisors, while the king himself shows her great affection. Despite his gentleness, a brutality lurks, and Zishi knows she can never let her guard down. But the higher Zishi climbs in the Wu court, the farther she and Fan Li have to fall. And if she is unmasked as a traitor, she will bring both kingdoms down. Doesn't that sound right up my alley? Yeah, sounds very nice. A Song to Drown Rivers. I really like that cover. Isn't that nice? It's got a metallic sheen to it as well. Nice, right? Okay, so that'll be interesting. If I can get to it, I will read it and bring it to you all. But you guys, once we go through this TBR tag, you're going to be wondering when I ever get to this book. Also want to mention, in like the housekeeping portion of this video, I want to mention that you guys know I am my own sponsor here, and I have a merch shop, and I have a new design in the merch shop. This is, oh, can you even see it? I'm looking on the screen. Yeah, gimme the Sandy synopsis. And this hoodie is the unisex long sleeve hoodie shirt, medium, size medium. So all right, so that's new. All right, enough of that. You guys, let's dive into the TBR, the exposing my TBR tag. All right, prompt number 1. How do I come across books to add to my TBR? Well, obviously now we have book of the month happening, but that's not typically how I get books for this channel. I made some notes here. You know, I used to do those mystery boxes. I would order a mystery box off of like eBay. That has been a little while ago when I used to do that. That was back in like 2018 when I did like the mystery boxes and book of the month. And what was the other one? Oh, Scribbler. I think Scribbler was one of the boxes I used to get, you know, each month. I don't do those so much anymore. Although now, obviously, book of the month is happening. But other BookTube channels, I find out about other books that are available or interesting out there from other channels. I also go to author events. I'll go to like Imaginarium. You guys hear me talk about Imaginarium all the time on this channel. There's the Sunshine State Book Festival up in Gainesville. I picked up a bunch of books at that festival back in January. I was one of the authors there. I had a table, and the 2 tables next to me had cool, awesome books. And, you know, we were sitting there talking to each other all day. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you guys, I need your books before we leave here. But there were other authors in that room that I went around and saw some of their cool stuff. And I'm actually going to be filming a video of one of those books here this afternoon during this set of videos that I'm doing. So author events, that's one of the main ways that I find books to bring to you guys, because you know I like to bring you indie authors and hybrid authors. And then social media, especially Twitter. I can't remember to call it X. Sorry, guys. I've been on Twitter since way back in the day, so it's always going to be Twitter to me. But I do find a lot of new to me authors on Twitter. I just do. I'm in a lot of different writers' threads and groups on Twitter, and so I find a lot of interesting titles. And when I see a new book cover being advertised or shown in one of those threads, it perks my interest, and I will go check that out. And if I like the way it sounds, I will buy it and I'll get it into my life, because I want to. Well, first of all, I want to support the author, and I want to bring that to you guys here on the channel if I can. I have one right now. Oh, you guys, I can't remember the author's name right off the top of my head. I feel bad. I will put it in the drop-down box below, but the name of the book is Castle of Calamity, and it has a dragon in it, and it's high fantasy, and it looked really interesting when I saw it. I loved the cover. I was drawn to it. I'm like, oh, this looks good. So that's actually on the TBR shelf for me to bring to you guys. All right. That's good. That's how I come across books to bring to you here. No, that's how I come across books to add to my TBR. You guys. Number 2, BookTuber shout out to the person who adds the most books to my TBR. You guys, I couldn't narrow this one down. I don't know. There are a lot of channels out there that I will, I'll be watching them, and they'll be doing like the top 10 fantasy books you should read. And, 5 of those 10 I've read, but the other 5, I'm like, ooh, hey, I should look into those, and I'll write them down, but I don't remember who the booktuber was who suggested them. I'm ancient. I don't remember names very well. Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know who I should shout out as the booktuber who brings the most books that are coming to my TBR pile. I don't know. I don't know. Number 3, book that has been there the longest. Okay, so what book has been on my TBR shelf the longest? I thought about this a little bit before I came in here to do this video. You guys, I don't remember if I read The Shining by Stephen King. I've had this book since I was a teenager. All right, my great-grandmother had this on her shelf and gave it to me to take home to read. And I still have it all these years later. So this one has been on my TBR shelf the longest, but I think I read it. Now, maybe that's because I know the story so well, seen the movie, I know the story so well. Maybe it's just my brain thinking that I've read it, right? That could be the case. If that's the case, then the book that's been on my TBR shelf the longest is probably the Black Jewels trilogy by Anne Bishop. This one, this compendium, this special edition thing here was released in 2003. And I wanted to read it. So obviously I bought it for that purpose. And you can see it's a little intimidating. You can see how thick that is, right? And it's been sitting there all that time. It has moved with me many times since 2003, and I just haven't gotten to it. Perhaps I can go on the 2025 TBR list. There you go. Number 4, most recently added book. I'm going to go with the one we just opened. Yeah. Number 5, which book will I read next? You guys, I don't even know. I am working on, there's a YouTube Secrets book by Sean Cannell. That one I'm working on, I'm reading it right now. So does that count as the one I'm reading next? I don't know. But I'm also reading Dangerous Women. This is a book of short stories. It's an anthology of short stories. I'm only into like the 3rd story in there. So maybe this is the one I'm reading next. I don't know. I'm working on my Goodreads challenge for the year. I'm reading 36 books for my Goodreads challenge this year. And among that challenge, I'm doing our dragon reading challenge for this year. I'm doing the clock reading challenge for this year. So there are some books in those 2 challenges that I need to get to and finish off. So I might read one of those next. I do not know what I will read next. Question number 6, most anticipated book and why haven't I read it yet? Guys, when I was preparing for this, I don't know what my most anticipated book is right now. I don't know. I know what my most anticipated record is. I know that has nothing to do with the TBR, but you know, Deco, the band Deco, they have their first album has just been released. It has just been released. In fact, I got my email notice that my pre-order has been dispatched. It'll be here any day. So I'm anticipating that, but I don't know what book I'm like anticipating. I'm waiting with bated breath. I don't know. And I guess that's why I haven't read it yet, because I don't know what it is. So I have like a ton of books around me that I need to read. We'll get to that in a minute. So let's move on to question number 7. Books that I added to my TBR because of the hype. I added the book So Let Them Burn at the beginning of this year because of the hype around it. That book, it's by Camilla Cole, and she was one of those authors that Kate Corain. Oh, so nice that I can't remember her name. Kate Corain, I'm sure it is. But she had been naughty, and she had made up some Goodreads accounts. And I don't think we have to say allegedly anymore. She had made up some Goodreads accounts to target and harass and 1-star bomb some other authors. And Camilla Cole's new book, So Let Them Burn, was one of those she was 1-star bombing. So I wanted to check that out. And it was because of the hype around all of that I wanted to check that out. And it had dragons in it, and the cover was gorgeous. And I did read that, and that review is here on the channel. So that was added to my TBR pile because of the hype, but I've already read it. So it's not on the TBR pile anymore. Question number 8, books that I added that I knew I wasn't going to read. You guys, I don't know if this is answering the question properly, but I do have a number of like special edition fancy books that I've added to like the bookshelves that I didn't intend to read the fancy special edition. I've already read the book itself in some other format. Examples. This one is The Princess Bride. Can you see it? No, it's out of the frame. I have a fancy edition of The Princess Bride over here. I've got this fancy edition of Dracula, almost out of the frame. This fancy edition of The Hobbit. Okay, these are books I've already read before. Okay, I've got fancy editions of Jane Eyre over here on the Bronte bookcase, right? There are fancy editions of some of these books that I wanted to have just in my collection to have and to hold and to adore, right? But I did not intend to read that particular edition, that particular version of the book, even though I've already read the book. If that makes sense. Question number 9, any books on there that I will remove? So are there any books on my TBR pile that I'm going to remove? You guys, I already have removed some from the TBR pile this summer that I knew I wasn't going to get to. I already have done that, which is frightening when you see the number we're going to talk about in a minute here. I've already done that. I've already donated some to the library. There were some that were not in as good of condition that I've already, donated to Goodwill. Leave it at that. But I do have 2 over here on this TBR tree. A Name of the Wind and The Wise Man's Fear by Patrick Rothfuss. And there has been so much, I don't know, what's the word? There's been so much oddness and wackiness around that author as of late that I'm like, well, if there were a couple of books that I need to just like put at the bottom of the pile, those are going to be the 2 that I move to the bottom of the pile until all of that weird and wackiness sorts itself out. Same with Neil Gaiman. We're going to just, anything by those 2 authors on my shelves right now, we just put at the very bottom of the pile until all that sorts itself out. I'm not big on cancel culture. I don't like that. I don't want to cancel anybody. I don't like that, but it does tend to taint the reading experience sometimes, right? If you're reading something and in the back of your mind, you're like, oh, this person did something naughty or is rumored to have done something naughty. It will kind of mess with your reading experience. It just does, right? That's our society. So I think if I just put those at the bottom of the pile, let all that stuff sort itself out. To number 10, grand reveal of the number of books on my TBR. You guys, I actually went through and counted. I probably didn't count them up right. I have trouble with numbers, but I have books in this room. I have books in the living room. I have books in my bedroom. Oh, there are books in the den. I did not count the books in the den. But the stuff in the den is like mostly reference material. Okay, that's mostly for work. That's reference material. I don't think that doesn't count. Okay, I came up with 335. I believe, best estimate, I have 335 books, 336, counting the one we just opened. Basically, I have 335 books on my TBR pile. It would take me 9.3 years to read them all. If I was sticking with the Goodreads challenge that I have set up for myself this year and reading 36 books each year in the Goodreads challenge, it would take me 9.3 years to read those books on my TBR pile. Yeah, the current number that's on the pile. And I'm going to get more books because every time I go to an author event, I'm buying books from people. It's constant. I can't help it. I am not a hoarder. Let me just say that. I have a pretty sparse in my house. I don't have a lot of junk in my house. I don't keep crap. But when it comes to books, yes, I am a hoarder of books. I will admit that. I'll admit that all day long. I hoard books. I have a lot of books. I love having books around me. That it's nice to be able to just pick up a story and dive into another world. I like the escapism. It is good for me to be able to escape. Yeah. Okay. Is that enough? I mean, we've covered the tag. We've done all that good stuff. You guys, thumbs up for an overwhelming TBR pile, because there's always something good to read. Thank you so much for tuning in.